preparation for your interview. Everybody say hello to the recording. Everyone say hello to the recording. Awesome. Welcome to the Resume Workshop 2022. If you do not know who I am, my name is Jeremy Blau. I'm the South San Diego District Executive. Been in Cutco for over 5 years now, just past my 5-year Cutco-versary. Did this job through college, branch manager, assistant manager, went through our corporate leadership program, the Leadership Academy, 5 times now, and really grateful to be running this workshop. Now, this workshop, honestly, is probably one of the most important workshops that we have every single year. We only run this once a year. As we close down on the summer campaign, we make a transition into the fall. A lot of you are students, and one of the biggest things that we talk about while working with Vector is how to make a resume, how to interview, and how to get all this great experience. So that's really going to be one of the biggest outcomes from the event. I'm not running this event by myself, but if y'all want to grab something out for notes, it's important to have these 3 names dialed in here on your notes. Obviously, so I'm going to be hosting this event alongside with Mr. Anthony Hayes, our Newport Beach District Executive, and Ava Costantino, our Northridge District Executive. Us 3 will be running this event. But here's really the agenda for today before we dive into it today. Opening comments, we're going to start with that here in just a moment. Interview preparation, how to prepare for an interview, how to dress for the interview, just dressing for success in general, interview etiquette in person and virtual as well, the stages of an interview, what to expect for that, general interview keys, and how to leave a job. And also we're going to have a couple of interactions throughout our time today as well. But just a couple of things I'd like to talk about in regards to expectations for this event. Obviously, when you're here on Zoom for the job, especially as we're talking about professionalism in the virtual world, is obviously having your videos on. Okay, imagine if it were just like this. Imagine if me, Anthony, and Ava were running the event like this today, Marcus. You wouldn't be too fired up. That wouldn't be that exciting. So it goes both ways, right? This is definitely interactive. We want to make sure that you're retaining a lot of the information, that you're playing full out, especially during the interactions as well. I don't know if anybody has ever been in a breakout room with somebody who had their video off. Anybody ever experienced that before? Don't be that person. Don't be that guy or gal or person in the breakout room. It just helps a lot for the interaction for sure. And also just have something out for notes. If you have any questions, I definitely recommend having a running list of questions. So after the event, if you have any things that you want to have clarified, that's an easy reach out to your manager so we can hop on Zoom with you and make sure you have any questions. But our goal is that by the end of this event today, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. Obviously, a lot of this is going to tie in very nicely with preparing for your Leadership Academy interview with your respective division manager. And speaking of that, with our respective division manager, it is not just the South Coast Division. We have 3 divisions on, just like it was for SC1 and SC2. This is really catered for everybody in the South Coast Division, whose division manager is Mr. Evan Keller, been in the business for about 20 years, over $50 million in career sales, and everybody in the Southland Division, with your leader being J. Brad Britton, who's been around for a long time. J. Brad's been along for a long time, $280+ million in career sales. And Mr. Kevin Donahue also been here for a couple of decades. Over $30 million in career sales for the Showtime Los Angeles division. And I'm really excited for the event. So if you want to grab something out for notes, and we're gonna dive into it here in just one second. But one thing I'd like to do is I want to start off with a group interaction. Okay, if you want to grab something out for notes, we're going to give you an opportunity here to write something on your notes here. And then we're going to put you on the breakout rooms and you're going to share with some people. So first question is, why is this important? Why is it important to be in this workshop? How can the Leadership Academy be beneficial for you 3 to 5 years down the road? What skills are employers looking for? I'm going to turn on some music and we just want you to just write this down on a piece of paper. We're going to put you into breakout rooms. It's going to give you maybe a minute or 2 to write this down, turn on some tunes, and we're going to start orchestrating some breakouts for everybody. I think will be good for the breakouts here. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to turn on some tunes. We're going to get you all rolling here with a couple of questions. We're going to start with an interaction. We're going to dive into some content. I'm going to kick it over to Anthony Hayes here relatively soon. So I'll turn on some music, everybody. How's that volume? Can you hear that okay? Cool. All right, love it, love it, love it. I'm going to pause the recording here just for this part as well, so we don't have this in the recording. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. As you're coming back in, hello, hello. How was that? Yeah, you meet somebody new? All right, cool. The recording is live again. The recording is live. Thanks for your participation with that. So here's what we're going to do before I kick it over to Mr. Anthony Hayes. I'd like to get a couple of people to to volunteer. To volunteer would probably be a better way to put that. If you're inclined and you want to share something that you're excited about for this event, how TLA, share your answers that you shared in your breakout room. Would love for anybody to just, you can raise your Zoom hand is probably the best way to do that. We'll call on 3 people. That feels good. Marcus, love to see you being first. We got Mr. Broxton and then Kira. Those are the 3. So Mr. Marcus, you can kick us off, buddy. And then we'll go Jeremy and then Kira, you'll take us home.
Awesome. For me, I think one of the big things that I'm most interested in this workshop is just being able to learn from people who are above me. Not in terms of everybody's equal, but obviously you guys have a lot to share. You guys have a lot of knowledge and wisdom that you can put on to other people. So that's something that I'm really excited in learning. And then just being able to be in the workshops and learn from just some of the other reps and what their thought process are on certain things, and just open up my perspective and perception on a lot of different items and stuff like that.
It's awesome, that idea of just exposure, right? Just exposing yourself to different types of people on all different levels in the business in this case. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's a really good share. Mr. Broxton, what's up? You can feel free. You should be able to unmute, I think.
Yeah, so I was just going to share the best qualities to have, what people are looking for. In my opinion, are a go-getter and a hard worker and a grinder. Because regardless, the grinder will always be in the running no matter what happens, because they're the ones working their butts off. And that's the best quality I can think of.
Yeah, that's a really good share too. And that's simple, right? It's a simple thing. And it's simple to separate yourself from your peers in that regard, just by sheer work ethic and outworking people for sure. So Mr. Jeremy Broxton, thank you very much. And then Kira, you can take us home. Then I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Hayes.
Awesome. So I think for me, I have social anxiety, majorly. So I've actually never spoke in front of 50 people. So it's kind of new for me, but anyway, I think just the talking skills and the customer service skills that we'll be gaining from this experience, that kind of helps people with anxiety like me, or just social skills, or that are just socially awkward like myself. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to benefit from that.
Yeah, that's huge for sure. And learning how to interview and how to interact with all different types of people. And big shout out to you speaking and raising your hand in front of 50 plus people. So kudos to you for that. So great shares, right? We'll have more interaction towards the end of the day today. But if y'all want to grab something out for notes, I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Hayes. And Mr. Hayes is going to be speaking about, first off, how to prep for the interview in business attire. And this is going to be nuts and bolts. So definitely pay attention, have something out for notes. And once again, have a running list of questions if there's anything that you'd like to get clarified with your manager later on. But Mr. Anthony Hayes Jr., I'll kick it over to you.
Cool, that's me. All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Marcus. And then our middle speaker, which was Jeremy, was also JB. That's funny. I gotta love that. So, hey, good morning, everybody. Appreciate you guys being here. Want to commend you, of course, for just making the decision to be here today to learn on how to prepare yourself, on how to be a better professional, of course. And there's a lot of things you'd be doing on a Saturday morning. So the fact that you're here says a lot about you and, of course, what you're looking to do in the world. And so my job right now is to talk to y'all a little bit about the pre-interview process. It's not necessarily the actual interview, but what you do before you start the interview itself. Okay, so let me make myself big. Here you go. You got a big Anthony. Congratulations. So here's something I think is really important for us to talk about just to start off the day. I understand what we're going to talk to you today about is setting yourself up on how to be professional, how to really present yourself in the proper way for a TLA interview with your division manager, whether that's Kevin, Evan, or Mr. J. Brad Britton. But here's what I think is also important to remember, that we know, I've been doing this for 7 years now. We know that unfortunately, you're not all going to be here forever, and that's totally okay. Right, that's completely fine. You might be a one summer kind of thing, a multi-summer kind of thing, might be a multi-year kind of thing. I don't know for sure, but at some point, people do tend to leave. And so what's important to learn is that how can you utilize what we teach, what we offer, what we provide here to help you take this position as a stepping stone to something bigger and better, right? Who, just by show of hands, how many of you guys have heard of someone or heard a story about someone using their Cutco experience to get into this dream internship, dream job, dream opportunity, something like that? Okay, by show of hands. Cool, maybe about half of you. And half of you maybe haven't. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. So what I think is important to understand is that there's 2 types of people that leave Cutco. And Jeremy will talk a little bit more about this later. But there's people that take this opportunity, milk everything they can from it, right? Really maximize their opportunity and go do big, phenomenally great things, right? You may hear a lot about them on the Changing Lives, Selling Knives podcast, right? A lot of great opportunities like that. And then there's people that will show up, a lot of times even succeed at a high level, and then not fulfill, really not take advantage of what they get out of this, right? Don't use it to go bigger and better. So what I really want to talk to you about is not only aligning yourself best for your success here with us, but also down the road, should you decide to leave on top into something bigger and better down the road, okay? So what we're going to talk about right now is first and foremost preparing your portfolio, right? Making a resume, everything you're going to need before an interview. So let's kick this off. Number one, understand, let's talk a little bit about cover letters and mission statements and desired outcomes. And so the first thing I want to start with is we talked a lot just a moment ago about what employers look for, right? And I know Jeremy talked about things like grit, right? Hard work. Here's what I'll tell you. I don't know all of your interviews, right? I didn't interview all of you here. I don't know what all of your resumes look like, but I can guarantee there's some commonalities between all of your resumes when you applied for this job. Hardworking, communication skills, right? Team player. And those things sound familiar to anybody here, right? I see Preston going like, yeah, that's my resume. I'll tell you right now, those are the things on everybody's resume. And so what's important is not just putting things on there, but being able to properly quantify them and actually present them in a way that comes off as appealing, that shows that you actually have that skill. So let's talk very quickly about what do employers actually look for. By show of hands, that if you work with me, you've probably seen this before, but by show of hands, how many of y'all have heard of NACE before? Anyone here heard of NACE? Yeah, Ryan's like, yeah, I have. It's like my 9th time seeing this, Anthony. I got you, okay? And so NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So as y'all can imagine, when you go to college, most people go to college to get a what? Most people go to college to get a really good what?
Degree.
Degree? What do they get a degree for? Get a job, right? I'm going to make an assumption that none of you are going to college because you're like, I really want this piece of paper to let you know I'm better than you at biology. You don't care. None of us care. Why do you get it? So that you have this now certificate that says I'm good at biology, so it gets you a better job. And so what NACE does is it partners colleges with employers. It says, colleges, here's what you should be teaching, because this is what employers want. So let's make sure we work together on those things so that these students get more jobs as a result. As you can imagine, when a college says, hey, we help more students graduate and get into these careers, that's really appealing to you as people that are applying to go to those colleges. Right? This, like the colleges are actively recruiting you. They want you to apply to their school. So they make sure that they provide things that allow you to get to your end desired result. And so let's talk about what employers are actually looking for. So this was a study done December of last year, okay, right on NACE's website. And I'm going to skip this one right here, and I'm going to go right here. So where it says competencies, importance, proficiency, and differential. So these are the things that are most important, right? Scaled, right? It's ranked here, most important to employers. And here's how good the average college graduate tends to be at them. So what's the most important thing for them? Critical thinking. What are employers looking for? They're looking for critical thinkers. So chat box me real fast. What does it mean to be a critical thinker? What does it mean to be a critical thinker? Hit me in the chat box with an idea on what it means. How do you exemplify? How do you show you're a critical thinker? Yeah, thinking outside the box, thinking levels. Inquisitive. Asking good questions. Thinking in solutions. Situational thinking, right? When I think about critical thinking, I think about being able to process and analyze situations, right? Understand the situation and being a problem solver. Right? Has your manager told y'all about being a problem solver versus a problem reporter yet? Has anyone manager said that? Like I tell my reps this all the time, like, don't tell me your problem. Tell me how you want to solve your problem, right? That is what employers are looking for. They don't want someone that comes to them and goes, hey, here's the problem. They want someone that says, hey, here's the problem. Here's how I think we should solve it. That might not be the way they want you to do it, but they like that someone has the inquisition to look for the answers, right? And how proficient are students at that? About half of them are actually good at it. About half of them are actually good at it. Then there's things, of course, like communication. I think it goes without saying that all of us, from myself to every single representative here, could probably be a better communicator. Not just how well can you speak in front of others, but how well do you work with your manager, right? Do you talk to your manager on a consistent basis? Do you talk to your peers on a consistent basis, right? Are you looking for solutions with each other? Teamwork, okay? equity and inclusion, professionalism. We're going to talk a lot about that one today. My camera off, people. Technology. I think you should all be fairly good at this point. Career and self-development. Look at this. 35% of college graduates are actually any good at career and self-development. Man, I wish there was a program offered for young professionals where they could work on their leadership skills, self-development, their career opportunities. Like, I don't know, they taught things like, maybe it was like an academy for this, potentially, where they went over things like how to, get better at time or like money management, working with others. Man, that'd be a great program to have, right? Wouldn't y'all want to be a part of a program like that? I sure would. We should look into that. Ava, Jeremy, we should talk about making something like that. Okay. TLA does that, just so you know. All right. So here's what employers are looking for. All right. So there's the first thing. That's what almost all employers are looking for. Now let's get a little bit more granular here. What is your own division manager looking for? So we just talked about, hey, it would be a great place to be able to learn all those skills. That's what TLA is. TLA is designed to help you become proficient, if not excel, in every single one of these areas. So now let's talk about, what do you need to make sure you quantify for your own division? So depending on what division you're in, here's a really important question for you. Do you know what your division's about? What is your culture, your core values? What's important to your division manager? And how do you make sure you exemplify that with your resume, right? So if you're in SoCo, you have the SOCO. I think that's phenomenal. I love that. But being a 5-star recruit, right? Learning how to be a 5-star recruit, the kind of person that gets recruited to the biggest and best opportunities, right? If you're in the LA division here, understanding integrity, work ethic, perseverance, personal growth. And if you're in Southland, you hear Jay Brad say this every single week during our division manager message, but honesty without compromise, integrity above reproach, constant and never-ending improvement, being positive, inspiring, having fun, and a whatever it takes mentality. Okay, so these are the things that I would include in a initial cover letter, right? Here's an example of one. I will give you guys references and links to everything that I mentioned here at this time moving forward. But that's the first thing you want to have, is what is essentially kind of your initial opening comments, your initial pitch onto why you should be a part of the TLA, of this company, of wherever you're looking to be a part of, right? That's the first step, is positioning yourself, getting that foot in the door through what you're talking about. So if I'm writing a cover letter for the SoCo division, right, I want to talk about how I've worked on myself this summer, how I've been a phenomenal team builder this summer. Oh, here we go. How I've been a phenomenal team builder, maybe through 1 or 2 PRs, consistent sales performance, right? SC2, as many of you know, was a little bit of your interview itself. And then how I'm getting tons of coaching. Obviously, that's where my manager comes into play. All right. So that's the first step, with developing your cover letter. All right. Second thing, now let's talk about your resume, a quick 6-second impression. So I will give you all this template here today as well, but this is an AMI resume template. This is primarily for those of y'all that are not assistant managers just yet. All right. But it gives you a brief idea of how you would quantify these numbers. Right now, how you can actually show that you are a critical thinker. I'll tell you right now, great sales representatives are critical thinkers. Because as you've probably learned, sales is all about problem solving. Sales is all about problem solving, right? It's about being able to identify a problem, something that needs to be fixed or can be better improved with a consumer, and then how your product fits that need, right? That's critical thinking all day, every single day. And it goes up a level when you're an assistant manager, branch manager, or, district manager above, all right? But let me just quickly show you, and I'm going to run through this fairly quick. Again, you're going to want to sit down with your manager to go over these things a little bit more in depth as well. But I want to really quickly walk you through the sales representative part of your resume and how to build that. All right. So obviously, whenever you started, you'll put that in there, right? You can put in your training seminar. Your training is college accredited. It's something you should put in your resume. You can put put here the fact that you're working with customers virtually from point of contact to close, showing your online technology professionalism, right? One of those skills that employers are looking for. Now, generate a network of over blank clients through referrals. This is huge. This is huge. This shows phenomenal communication skills, a great ability to work with others, right? So if you don't know how many referrals you've gotten, that's a good thing to make sure you keep track of, whether through your app or through a spreadsheet that you've been making. All right, participate in weekly meetings to review sales analytics, create action plans, team events, right? Earned 5 commission pay raises first summer on the job. So as you all know, commission pay raises start at 1,000. So 1K, 3K, 6K, 10K, 20K, then it goes 30, 50, 150 plus, right? So however many you've gotten there, that's where you can put that in. All right. Sold over blank amount of kitchen cutlery with an average order of this. All right. I want you to understand it really doesn't matter what number you put here. Maybe you're here right now, you're only at your second promotion. And you're like, man, that doesn't look very exciting. I'll tell you right now, the average person doesn't know how much a Cutco knife costs. So you say you sold $3,000 worth of Cutco products and they think knives are like 20 bucks. They're going to think you're the craziest person on the planet. Like what? $3,000 in knives, Laurel? That is insane. Wow. Right. So always make sure you put that number in there. Average order size is important to have as well. If you don't know where to find that, I'll give you a real quick rundown of this. Yeah. We'll send this to you guys real quick. Finding your average order. If you just go to my account and go to it is stats. Personal report sales CPO. There you go. So average CPO per order, mine is 613. Nice. Shout out to phone orders. Shout out phone orders, right? Gotta love that. Okay. And then moving along here, drain it over blank in sales through personal recruits. This is something you're going to want to talk to your manager about. There is a way to find this. If you're an assistant manager, you might be able to get access to this, but just ask your manager this. Again, you don't want to sit down with your manager to prepare your resume, but this is huge. Okay. This is huge. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. I know you may not even to this day understand how important team building is, but I'll tell you just one little thing. My mom works in HR. She's the, like, I don't know, third level HR or something like this for the county of Orange. And her job beyond firing people or making sure, you know, people don't do weird stuff at work is to find great talent, right? That's human resources, is to hire and attract great talent onto the team. So I just want you all to think really quickly. And if this is big, if you understand, it starts to click, this is a big deal, put the word big in the chat box for me once it clicks for you. If you are applying for a job and the person that's interviewing you, their job is to acquire talent, and you put on your resume, yeah, I'm really good at doing great work, but also acquiring more talent. Like I do, that's not even my job, but I'm also good at acquiring more talent, helping them be successful. Do you think that's pretty good to have? Yeah. And obviously the better they do, the better it's going to show for you. I think about Sydney Seagraves. Sydney Seagraves in last spring, she had 9 friends join the job. They produced $135,000 in sales. She's her own office. You think people want Sydney Seagraves on their team? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Then assistant leading sales team to blank for the summer. Again, talk to your manager. They can show you reports on how to find your office's total sales and then where you placed in that office as well. Very important. Huge. These are huge things, right? This is why it's so important for you that you're helping your team hit their goals as well, because the better your team does, and then the better you do within that team, it just looks really good, right? Like if I'm in Ventura County office, I'm talking about how we were the #1 office for SC2. And I placed number 3, number 5, number 1 on that team for the push period, right? Like that's a big deal. That's something that's going to look really good on that resume as well. All right. And then of course, earning a promotion into the Leadership Academy. So here's a great example of what this looks like. This is Jana Santos from a couple of years ago, right? As you can see, has here sold over $14,000 with a $265 average order, generated over $90,000 in sales through personal recruits. As you can tell, Jana is highly coveted, not only in Cutco, but outside of Cutco as well, right? Earned the number 6 sales representative position for the #1. That's wrong, but that's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. Newport is #1 pilot in 2020. You heard that right, Joe Roach. All right. So there's an example of that. And then of course, guys, as you move up further and further, it just starts to look better and better as a branch manager when you're now running your own office, right? Conducting professional interviews, you're now training other representatives to hit promotion levels. It just keeps getting sweeter and looks better and better the further up, of course, that you go. All right. So some basic keys as far as what to put onto a resume itself. It should be very quick that someone can hop onto your resume and quickly see that you've created success and that you exemplify some of these key skills that they're looking for. All right. Now, something else you should have is the blank page for notes. One of the biggest things, especially in an online interview, you can have is your own note paper. It is so important, so critical, so key that you have to take some notes on. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but whether it was an in-person interview or it's been a virtual interview over the last couple of years, one of the easiest ways I've ever been impressed as an interviewer is when someone is taking notes on their own. It's huge. Even right now, for those of you I can see taking notes, it clearly shows me your level of involvement and how serious you are taking this opportunity versus those of y'all that are like looking around and just kind of like blank faced right at me in the camera, which I mean, hey, at least you're looking at the camera, so we'll take that. But I can see Olivia has not looked up in like 20 minutes, just been writing everything down. That's huge. Taking notes is body language. 65% of your communication is nonverbal. It is body language. Your body language of taking notes is I am intense, I'm serious, and I'm here to learn to get better so that I can make sure I make a good impression. Huge. Number fourth, of course, is any recommendation letters you might have, whether it's from a teacher or a previous employer, right? Your manager is a great thing to have, especially for TLA. Fifth thing is certificates supporting your work experience, right? So this might be anything from, like management skills. If you have like an Excel certificate, right? Like I can look at, I can look at some of these here, and there are Zoom skills, right? Like you can put your training as a Zoom skill certificate there as well, right? So just little things to have. And then quick little pro tip. Here's a very quick little pro tip. Resume, try to keep it to 1 page. If you're going to go over a page, no more than 2, right? Like this here should be formatted to be 2 columns for sure. All right, this should be 2 columns for sure. Just want to make it look a little bit shorter, a little bit more concise. Very important. All right. There we go. And last thing is if you have a business card, you always want to have that in your portfolio as well, that you will hand to a potential interviewer. Again, this is going to be for an in-person interview, the business card. Probably don't need one for a virtual one. All right. So some simple, quick keys. Let me give that a couple more seconds for preparing your portfolio. And again, everything that I showed you here, we'll make sure you guys get access to that down the road so you can dig in on that resume template a little bit. All right. All right, moving along. Last thing here before I go and turn things back over to Jeremy, then I believe to Ava, let's just quickly talk about how to present yourself in an interview, right? You've heard it before, dress for success. That first impression is how they're going to remember you, what's going to be lasting in your mind, right? And so let's talk quickly about online interviews, because I know online interviews are going to be very pertinent, very important moving forward, right? In fact, as you can see that here in this LinkedIn article, I want to say it says that here you go, 81% of professionals around the world say that virtual recruiting will continue post-COVID, and 70% will say that it becomes the new standard. So learning how to be a professional online over Zoom is going to be extremely important for you. So a few really quick keys for an online interview. Number one is have your camera on. Can you imagine being in a one-on-one interview with your camera off? You might as well just go ahead and leave immediately. Number two is let's get some good lighting, right? Ring lights. Ring lights are like $10 on Amazon. You should get a ring light. Have direct lighting. Don't have lighting behind you. Then you get like that witness protection program shadow. It gets really creepy, kind of strange. And the worst thing you can have is like above or below lighting, right? Because like below lighting gives you some very awful facial features, and above makes you look kind of angry. So direct lighting, super important, makes your face all bright and beautiful. We love that, okay? And third thing is let's have a straight camera angle. All right, here's what you don't want. Number one, please stop doing this. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. I can't stand this. This is awful. I don't know who wants, like, yes, I got my eyebrows done, so maybe you want to see that, but like, no one else does. I do, but like no one else does. That's bad. And then here's what's also bad, straight down, and then like you're like down here. Okay, that's also strange. All right. So if you need to adjust where you're sitting to get a better angle, put some books underneath your computer, whatever, get a straight angle so it looks like you're talking eye level as you would most likely be in person. Okay. And if you're short, this is even better because now you get to see what it's like to look, direct eye level. It's kind of nice. All right. So that's quick things. And then last thing here is a professional background. So just a couple of tips right off of LinkedIn for having a professional background is blank walls are a little strange. Okay. Bookcases are all right, right? J-Brad, as you can tell, really likes bookcases. But it might seem a little like you're trying to act smart. Okay. Fake backgrounds make you seem fake. The blur, like when you have a blurred background, I'll tell you right now, we just think you're hiding something back there. We just assume you probably have a dirty room. And that's okay. I get it. Not everyone's room might allow you to like have that setup. But here's what I'll tell you. If you really want to be a professional, professionals, when they want to work for, multi-million, 250, $300 million plus companies, they adjust their room to make it look right. I think about Mark Pfeiffer. Mark Pfeiffer began running interviews for my office last summer. And I said, Mark, if you want to run interviews for a multi-million international marketing company, you have to move your room around. And so he did. Okay. I'm not saying everyone's going to do that, but I'm just saying if you want to get the things you want, sometimes you have to make some changes, do some sacrifices, adjust your room a little bit. That's always helpful. All right. So things that are really helpful, nature and art, like fake plants. Fake plants are money. Fake plants are money. Right? Like Savannah, I don't know if that's a fake plant behind you. That could be a fake background for all I know. But plants are money. Plants make you look super cool. All right. Art looks really good. Right. Also, trophies, plaques, awards, things like that are also phenomenal as well. Shout out to Ava and Jeremy there. Don't have what I have, which is Calissa's office behind me. Not as good, but it is what it is. So we got to do what we got to do. All right. So just a couple of quick things to have. All right. In-person interviews, minimal cologne or perfume. You don't want to just smell like you put the entire bottle on. Fingernails cleaned and trimmed. All right. Important one. No gum, makes you smack a lot. Make sure you brush your teeth well before the interview as well, right? To check for any leftover broccoli or spinach or whatever. And, just you want to smell decent. And no matter what, whether you're in person or online, dress professionally. Okay. And I mean all the way professionally. I mean, you have a pair of pants on. Okay. I get it. We've been doing a lot of Zoom stuff. So it's really easy to like wear a professional top and then like some swim trunks. No, you should wear the entire thing, whether it's an online interview or an in-person interview. The way you dress is the way that you're going to represent yourself. All right. So that can mean a lot of different things, but essentially the traditional is right, a suit and tie, or blazer and pants or pencil skirt, of course, for ladies here, in an appropriate length, right? Like knee length is what you're looking for here. Okay. This is not the club. This is an interview, different tires. No Zoom Pro, what I mean, right? Like wear shoes, right? Like even if you don't wear shoes in your house, wear like a good pair of socks, no fuzzy sandals. Okay. And iron your clothes. There's nothing worse than having a really good outfit that's really wrinkly. All right. So really simple little keys here for you though, with preparing your portfolio and being prepared to look your best in person or online. All right. With that, I'm turning this off. Right over to, am I just going straight to Ava?
Nah, I'll take over. I'll kick it over to Ava here in a
Gotcha.
second. How was that first section, everybody? Pretty good. Do me a favor, message me in the chat box. One word. How are you feeling about the resume workshop so far? Valuable? Any good words in here? The message in the chat box. How you feeling? I got amazing in here. Isn't it crazy? This is free. That's pretty cool. This is free. Excited, informational, great, priceless, enlightened. Wear pants. Great tip. That's perfect, right? Like that's worth the price of admission for sure. Interesting, amazing, informed, eye-opening, prepared, fantastic, right? You're going to go rock your TLA interviews. So here's what we have left. Now we're going to start getting into the actual interview itself. Okay, I'm going to kick it over to Ava Costantino, and she's going to be speaking on interview etiquette and just the steps of the interview, talking about handshakes, all that good stuff. So Ava, I'll kick it right over to you. So go do your thing. I'm going to remove my spotlight.
Awesome.
Boom. See ya.
All right. Well, that was certainly a great start to the content today. It sounds like everybody learned some new things, which is awesome. Hopefully you already have a full page of notes. Now I will be getting into kind of how to, I guess, the beginning steps of the interview process. I know that Jeremy's going to be diving in a little bit deeper through, the next steps in it. A lot of what I'm talking about might be review for you because lucky you've already been doing a lot of these things in your presentations. So with that being said, still really focused, still take some notes, but my part will probably go quick, which is just fine. But first, we're going to be starting off with basic interview etiquette. So I do have everything on the screen. So I know that I was a person that liked to get ahead on my notes when my teachers were talking, just because I couldn't keep up necessarily. So if you'd like to get ahead on your notes, you can go ahead and do that here. So first things first is to maintain good eye contact, whether your interview is virtually or in person. This goes right along with what Anthony was talking about. So making sure that your camera is at the right level, or making sure that you are actually having eye contact with, your division manager when you're having your interview or any interview that you do in the future. Eye contact is really, really important. If you're trying to duck and dodge and like not look them in the eyes, they're going to think that you're hiding something. They're going to think that you're a little strange. Obviously, that's a sign of shyness, which is fine, but as professionals, we need to get used to actually making a real connection with the person that we're speaking to, and feeling very authentic. And first thing to be able to do that is to actually be making eye contact when you're speaking to somebody. So if that is a little bit of a struggle for you, I know it was for me a few years down the line. I like hated making eye contact with people. It was something that I would literally be honest with and be like, I hate making eye contact just because I felt so awkward. Get over it. Try to figure out a way that you can get over that, whether that's, hanging out with your friend and challenging yourself to actually look them in the eyes when you're speaking, but really just get over that, because it will help you leaps and bounds in the future and now. So be present in your interview. Again, obvious things, but somehow these things still go by the wayside in some regards. So no distractions with your cell phone or anything else happening. Turn your cell phone off if you need to have it on for, I don't know, whatever reason. Make sure it's on do not disturb, airplane mode. I don't know. I would challenge you to just not even bring it in the room, to be honest, because phones can really become a big distraction, especially even if like your sound's off and you have your phone right there and you keep getting all these Instagram notifications and your screen's lighting up. That's a distraction. And it's not looking very professional. So figure out a way that you can completely get that, out of the line of vision, out of the, line of hearing as well. And also just with anything else happening, I was thinking, before we open these rooms today, what other distractions would there be? I can't necessarily think of any, just because I know that I wouldn't, be bringing in my phone and things like that. But I guess if you're having a virtual interview, make sure that your computer's on do not disturb as well. The second worst thing of like listening to somebody on Zoom is like hearing text notifications going off through their computer, or like LinkedIn notifications or something like that. So making sure that you're figuring out a way to silence those or put those on do not disturb is also really important. Next is shaking their hand and thanking them for meeting you or meeting with you before sitting down. So you don't just want to like walk past them and again, like make no eye contact and just like go right down to, sitting down and feeling awkward. You want to take a moment to acknowledge them, because again, you should be really excited to be in their presence. Typically, you're going to be interviewing with somebody who you're hoping to make a connection with, whether it's, a future employer or, a higher up in your company. You want to make sure that you are presenting yourself in a way that is honorable to them. So shaking their hand and thanking them genuinely before, moving to sit down or, whatever that might look like. So we will be watching a video here in a minute on some good tips of how to do a correct handshake. It's a funny video, but you'll definitely get some good tips from that. But again, just to go over it again, when you're, shaking somebody's hand, maintaining eye contact, again, you're going to hear that a lot because it's really, really important, and avoid the dead fish handshake. And also wait for your invitation to sit down before you sit down. So you don't want to like walk in, shake their hand, thank them, and like rush right to the seat. You want them to say, take a seat or have a seat or, whatever that might look like. So I am going to, nope, I wanted to go to the next one so you guys can see it. Let me make sure that I am sharing my sound here. Should be, but just to make sure. I was not. Glad I checked. All right, awesome. So here goes this video right here.
Hi, I'm Laura Caton from Caton Consulting, and today we'll be talking about tips for a proper handshake. Has anybody ever given you the slippery wet fish? How about the nurse handshake where they're taking your pulse? How about the over-enthusiastic UFC handshake? How about the finger handshake, where they just shake your fingers? So let's talk about the elements of a proper handshake. Your web must connect to somebody else's web to give a complete handshake. Then curl your fingers around. Squeeze. The 2 words you want to remember are firm and brief. And then pump 2 or 3 times. So what are the main elements to remember about giving a proper handshake? First, your web must connect to somebody else's web to give a complete handshake. 2, curl your fingers around and then squeeze. Pump 2 or 3 times. The words you want to remember are firm and brief. Then introduce yourself and let go. So what does your handshake say about you? Thanks for tuning in, and check out more of our videos to help you enhance your chance for success.
All right, hopefully we got some great things from Kate in consulting here. But yeah, so obviously we really want to not have that dead fish, what does she call it? The nurse handshake, checking the pulse, or the finger handshake. So really feel confident about your handshake and go into it, really feeling like you're making a good impression on your own self. So. Sorry, y'all. Goodness, that video just wants to keep playing. But next, we're going to be talking about stage 1 of the interview, and it's connecting and building rapport. Like I said, this should all be a review for you all because you're already doing these in your presentations. But getting to know one another is the biggest thing. So you don't want to just jump right into, talking about the goods in terms of what it is that you've accomplished and things like that. You really want to sit there and make a connection with the person that you're speaking with. So that means asking general questions. So you don't want the conversation to be too much on you. You want to be asking them questions. Now, because it is an interview, they will likely be asking you questions as well, and that's okay. But making sure that you're not overtaking the conversation and making sure that there's a good balance between you speaking and learning about them and vice versa. So if you're feeling stuck with building rapport in, an interview setting, it can feel a little overwhelming maybe, is to look around their office. Typically highly accredited people, their office is going to show that. So they're going to have different awards, maybe even pictures with their friends and family around, things like that. So visually look around their space and find things that might be interesting for you to ask about. In this case, there might be a trophy or whatever from, a summer conference one from years ago, maybe asking them about that experience, how much they pushed for that, things like that, because those are things that they're going to be very, excited to share with you, very proud about. So always great things to ask about. Like I said, don't talk too much. And when asked, how are you? Respond with enthusiasm. So when somebody asks how you are, especially walking into an interview, they're looking for somebody that will be a great addition to their team that they already have. Typically, they're probably the people that built the team that they are currently having. So they like those individuals that are on the team. So if you come in with enthusiasm, like you're excited to be there, you feel very honored to have gotten this opportunity to speak with them, they're really going to appreciate that. If they ask you how you're doing and you're like, oh, good. Or even if, sometimes it's good to be honest, but, if you had a really bad morning, maybe I might jokingly mention that like, oh, I got a flat tire, but it's a great day. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. But you don't want to, like, really be down in the dumps or very nonchalant, because those are not, that's just really not going to give you the look that you think it will or that you want it to. So truly be exciting to be there. Outstanding. Thank you for asking. Outstanding might be a word that you never use, but maybe you should utilize it for this one. It's never a bad idea. And like I said, it'll be simple and short, but that's it for me.
I love that. Anybody learn something good from the handshake? It's like no slippery wet fish. That was a good that was a good one. But it's true, everyone's experienced that type of handshake before, right? And one thing that I want to just emphasize that Ava said that I think is great is a lot of that stuff is common sense, right? A lot of this is common sense, but common sense is not common action. Okay, so when you're in an interview, it's so easy to separate yourself from your peers. A firm and brief handshake and making eye contact and using their first name, like those small things, Laurel, they make a huge difference, especially when you're meeting with Evan for your Leadership Academy interview, right? That's so important. I think that's really huge. So we're going to shift gears. Now we're going to talk about the meat and potatoes of the actual interview and how to handle some questions, right? And how to handle just questions to expect when you're in an interview and how to properly answer them to put yourself in a great position of choice to get the position that you're interviewing for, whether it's obviously for the Leadership Academy or it's for another position later on down the road. Can y'all see this? Give me a thumbs up. Y'all good? Okay, awesome. So this is gonna be the second stage of the interview. The quality of your questions in a lot of sense determines the quality of your conversations, right? Same thing with you're doing a presentation with your customers. If you ask really good questions, then you're gonna get a really great sale, right? You have more, for lack of a better term, more ammo to use throughout the presentation or throughout your interview that you can use to your advantage. Okay, so some questions to expect and obviously avoiding the trap questions of not knowing how to answer properly answer these. To preface this section of the workshop, a lot of this ties into Anthony's section that he ran earlier, is prepping for the interview and going in there prepared for these types of questions. First thing is, one of the first things that they're going to ask you is, hey, tell me a little bit more about you, right? Tell me a little bit more about yourself. Why are you here? What brings you in today? What are you looking for in a position? What are you looking for in the Leadership Academy? Or what have you done in the past? Tell me a little bit more about your experience. I see you have this on your resume. You're involved in all these different clubs. Tell me a little bit more about that. What was your reason for leaving your previous job? These are all really great questions that you can expect to get asked, but you want to have these questions dialed in on what brings you in today. Now, let's say that you're applying for another internship later on down the road, but obviously let's talk about the Leadership Academy. When you're interviewing with your division manager, well, what brings you in today? You want to have that dialed. If this works for you, I would recommend even having flashcards. Mr. Keller, I'm really excited to be here for the Leadership Academy interview with you. I appreciate you giving me some time today. I'm really excited about this interview because I'm excited about growing myself personally, professionally, financially, learning how to manage my time, my money, my energy, learning how to lead groups of people, learn how to manage a team. And I'm really excited for this X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense? So you want to have that ready to go when you're interviewing with your division manager. This is something that is, I think it's really important to cover. So this last question here that says, what was your reason for leaving? Let's say that you're interviewing for another job. Okay. Let's say you're interviewing for another job. Later on, you get your dream job. You want to make sure it's really positive, because what your reason was for leaving, that's almost like a trap question. So you want to be intentional with your response, because that could be viewed as a negative thing. Well, why did you leave the job? You can spin that into a really positive response, rather than saying, oh, I left the job because I had beef with a coworker, or I just didn't like it, or whatever it is. That's the last thing that you want to say. A better way to answer that question is, well, I left this previous position. I was tired of working in the restaurant industry. I felt like I wasn't growing. I felt like I wasn't getting paid my value. So I decided to leave to an opportunity like today with the South Coast Division of Vector to really expand on those skills that I have and really be paid what I'm worth. Does that make sense? So having a positive spin to that type of question is really important. It's a great way to stand out in your interview with that question specifically. Another thing that I think is important to consider here, is, what are your strengths? In every question that you get asked, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? You want to turn this into either a question or relate it back to the interview that you're in right there, right? So me, for example, one of my strengths that I pride myself on is my communication skills, right? My communication skills and my confidence in communicating with people, all different types of people. So if I were in an interview and I pride myself on my communication skills, I've been involved in sports clubs, etc. Mr. Keller, I really appreciate you asking a question on what my strengths are. Me personally, I would say that my strengths are good, strong, effective communication. When I was involved in Link Crew and ASB and football, I really prided myself in all those things. And that's actually why I'm excited to work here, to expand on those skills, working with customers, all different types of customers, different demographics, age ranges, to really expand on those skills that I already have. Does that make sense? Where you turn it right back in to the job that you're interviewing for. In this case would be the Leadership Academy. Y'all tracking with me here? Yeah, y'all tracking with me? Cool, love it. What are your weaknesses? I want you to write this down in your notes. I want you to write down weaknesses. I want you to circle it, and I want you to put an X through it. And I want you to write down area of opportunity. Let's write down area of opportunity. Y'all see the difference there? Hey, Mr. Keller, my weakness is I'm really shy. My weakness is X, Y, or Z. That's so different than, Mr. Keller, I'm really happy. Mr. Britton, Mr. Donahue, I'm really excited that you asked me that question. Something that I'm currently working on right now, an area of opportunity for me, is working on my communication skills and stepping outside my comfort zone, which is why I'm so excited that I'm at the table with you having this conversation, because I think the Leadership Academy will really help me, be a stepping stone for me to step outside of that comfort zone. So I'm really excited to become that 5-star type of recruit in the South Coast Division and really work on that area of opportunity. Big difference there, right? Y'all tracking with me? So it's so important to have positive responses to these trap questions, right? So you want to make sure that you're prepared for those. Really, really easy to separate yourself. Simple. Why would you consider yourself an asset to this organization if you were hired? This is a great question. Have this ready. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How can you help their mission statement, like Anthony talked about earlier? I consider myself a great asset because of all my strengths and the areas of opportunity. I feel like if I were here in the South Coast Division, I can help others become their 5-star type of recruit, become the best version of themselves. Does that make sense? So I can help the people, I can help what you're building with your mission statement. Mr. Kelly, your mission statement is to build 5-star types of recruits. And I feel like if I were here, I can be the epitome of that and create a following for other people that are in the Leadership Academy as well. So something along those lines is great. Tell me a time that you overcame a challenge in a workplace. Very common question that you'll get in an interview is describe a time where you went through challenge. Describe a time where you went through challenge. Have that ready and have the strengths that emerged from that. Just like we did at SC2 yesterday or the other day and SC1. Just these questions that you get asked very often are opportunities for you to utilize that for your Leadership Academy interview as well. Okay, so powerful questions. These are very simple questions that you'll get. Besides money, what is most important to you about a job? This is also a great one. Aside from money, obviously everyone's working a job to make income, right? To make means. That's important. But what's more important for you than that? Because money is a byproduct. Money is a byproduct of doing a position right, or just working a job in general. So what is most important to you about a job? So expect these questions. My second point here, obviously continuing on with the powerful questions, is the way that you ask questions is a great way to stand out in your interview. Asking success-seeking questions, success-seeking questions. So when the interviewer gives you the opportunity to ask some questions, any questions for me? Hey, well, what type of advancement opportunities could I earn? What else is there for you? Y'all see the difference here in these types of questions? I've had an opportunity to interview hundreds and hundreds of people at this point in my career. And I always am excited about an applicant who asks these types of questions. What can I look forward to learning during the training process? What can I look forward to? And the anticipation. What do most people say they enjoy most about working here? What can I look forward to experiencing on the job? What are 3 most important characteristics that you look for in a new hire? And their answer is also like ammo, right? Well, I'm looking for somebody who's hardworking, somebody who's coachable, and somebody who is a great communicator, someone who's a great communicator. And then you can tie that into you. Well, I'm really excited if you accept me for the job because I feel like I have great work ethic, I'm coachable, and I really love to communicate with my peers. I really love to communicate with my leader to make sure that we're always collaborating. I think that's great. Does that make sense? So you can tie that in to the position that you're interviewing for, especially Leadership Academy. Now, this last point here is leave a lasting impression. Okay, leave a lasting impression. If somebody does this at the end of an interview, this is fantastic. If somebody does it at the end of an interview, you're gonna separate yourself so much. Look at the confidence in this question, Savannah. Hey, I thank you for your time and consideration. In a few years from now, we'll be celebrating the growth of your business because of your decision to bring me on board. I look forward to working with you. That is strong. That is a strong way to leave the interview. Oh my goodness. It's been very, very rare to have somebody in an interview that actually does something like this, because it shows a next level of confidence. Once again, it's easy to separate yourself. It's simple to separate yourself. So something that small could be great. So leave a lasting impression. Okay, so there's my first point there on just stage 2 of the interview and asking powerful questions. So some general keys of running an interview, and this will kind of tie some things together with what Ava was talking about and what Mr. Hayes was talking about as well. One thing that I like that Ava was talking about was authenticity. It's authenticity. Just be yourself, right? You're in the interview, right? You earn the interview for a reason. So remember to be yourself, breathe, relax, and get into a peak state prior to arrival. So whatever you're going to do a demo, or you're going to go into an interview, or you're going to go out on a date, whatever it is, it's always great to get into a peak state before you go into said event. For example, before I started this event today, I did some jumping jacks before I started the event today, just so I'm not a little bit nervous speaking in front of 50+ people. It's important to make sure that you are in your flow state. You're in a peak state. So whatever you need to do, I think that's really important to do. Okay. Building rapport with current workers. Let's say you're walking into an office, or you're walking into a restaurant, you're walking into whatever, shake hands, memorize names, and create a lasting impression. People's favorite word is their first name. So for example, that's from a book, by the way, called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a great book. I actually just experienced this the other day when we went to hot yoga. I went to hot yoga once before. This is my second time the other day. Hot yoga is really hard, by the way. If anybody was unaware, hot yoga is really, really hard. But first thing, she remembered my name when I walked in. She's like, hey, Jeremy, how you doing? I was like, cool. She remembered my name. I'm going to be back again for sure. I felt special because I like hearing my first name. I think that's important. Everybody does. This is also something that you can do that if you have a lot of interviews, you're meeting with your division manager. This is something that every single one of us on this call, when you meet with your division manager, should have done. Have a thank you card and give that to your division manager. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. It was great meeting you and your staff, whatever it is, and then give your name. Something very brief. They have something to actually keep, right? Something to keep, the thank you card from there. Especially handwritten is preferred. Handwritten, you put the time and effort into that. Especially if you give someone a thank you note, it's like you put the time and effort into it, they feel really special. I think that's really important. Listen carefully and take notes. Kind of reiterate what the previous speakers already talked about is having a blank sheet of paper in front of you or a notebook, a pen, a couple of pens ready to go, and taking notes throughout the entire time, asking questions, having those questions prepared towards the very end. Also, a little pro tip on the side is ask questions at the very end, right? Don't ask questions through because they'll likely answer your questions, but just have the questions prepared for the very end. Hey, a couple things that I wrote down, Mr. Keller, Mr. Donahue, Mr. Britton, that I'd love to get some clarification on are these questions I wrote down in my notes. That shows that you're being an active listener. That is also something that I would recommend doing on your demos with Mrs. Jones. When you're working with your customers, always have something for notes. Take notes on that, on their kids' names, their husband's name, their wife's name, whatever it is, what they like cooking, how often they cook. Make note of that because that can really help you help your customer get the best thing they can get. Be genuine, be confident. Especially just being genuine, being authentic is so important, especially in today's world, right? When it's almost rare to find someone who's very real and authentic, especially when we live in a land of social media. Can y'all agree with that? Being authentic is something that is almost a superpower. So definitely play to that as a strength, being direct and honest with responses, but rehearsed, right? So I think that's great. So having that preparation in advance is great, really important. Do not emphasize the skills and job activities that you don't want to do in the future, even if they represent great strengths for you. So let's say, for example, like you don't want to be a receptionist, but you have receptionist experience in the past, and you don't want to be a receptionist. Don't talk about that experience as much, right? Well, hey, here's my experience that I have in the past about being a receptionist and being a caller, whatever it is, but here's what I'm really excited about in the future. So hopefully that makes sense. Don't emphasize those skills that you don't want to be using in the new position because you want to expand on getting different skills and be very well versed and diverse with your experience on your resume. Okay. And most importantly, just like Mr. Hayes talked about, take time to prepare. Prep a day before, do your research, look at what their mission statement is, go on their websites, those types of things. Credible websites, that's all important to do. Take time to prepare. Take time to prepare. Okay. A last point here I'm going to touch on is how to leave a job. Is that okay if I'm up front with all of you today, like on this section? We talk about first impressions a lot. Yeah. In my professional opinion, I think last impressions are a little bit more important. Y'all feel me on that? So I have 3 points for you on how to leave a job. Okay. And, I've had an opportunity to work with, like I said, hundreds of representatives at this point in my career and train and coach a lot of people, all different types of people. And some are great and some could be challenging to work with. And my last thing that I always think about, the first thing I always think about when I think about a representative in the past is, well, what was their relationship like leaving before they left the business? First thing I always think about. And believe it or not, like a reference is, you got to earn a reference, right? Earn the reference and feel good about putting someone's name down, right? I think that's so important. It's almost a lost art, if you will. So we'll talk about this. The first thing is last impressions matter. I know I just touched on that, but one thing I encourage all of you to think about, let's say one day, Jessica, you leave Cutco and you're going to go do your dream job. One thing I'd love for you to ask yourself is, what is the last impression I left with John Baker, right? In this case, East Riverside, right? What was the last impression that you left with Mr. Keller, with Jeremy? Ghost culture. Has anybody ever been ghosted before? Raise your hand. I'm actually kind of curious. Anybody been ghosted before? Like somebody just doesn't respond to you? Look around, actually. Raise your hand and like look around. That's absurd to me. Like, how crazy is that? People, but also too, it's like, give some people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something happened, right? Maybe something happened. They totally forgot to respond. Something. I understand there's exceptions for everything, for most things. for most things, but not leaving a job. Not leaving a job. Yeah, exactly. Imagine doing that as an employer. Oh my goodness. And then to put you down as a reference. Hey, this person, Jimmy Rep, put you down as a reference. Well, you got to earn that reference, which is my last point here. Okay. My last point is to earn the reference. So a reference is really good. It's really great because when somebody calls, because they call the employer, right? If you put someone down as a reference, expect them to call the employer they put down as a reference. Hey, what was your experience like working with Johnny Rep, right? This person. Tell them everything. It was great working with them. Here's my experience while working with them in the beginning, in the middle, and during it. And also like, here's my experience with them leaving the position. Here's why they left. So just being very aware of that. Paper trails are everywhere. That's so important. So hopefully you understand and are picking up what I'm putting down. If you leave a position, and you have an office space, you walk into the office and you have that conversation face to face. Okay. You have that conversation face to face. You shake their hand, look at them in the eyes and say, hey, this isn't working out for me. Okay. I'm going to go on and go do this, but I really appreciate the experience and the guidance that you've given me. But that's tough to do. It's scary. It's an uncomfortable conversation. I understand, but that's the point. You got to choose the growth, right? You got to go do that. You have to do those things. Or if it's virtual, hop on Zoom. If there's no office, hop on Zoom with hey manager, I'd love to chat with you on Zoom. You got a moment? Can we set up a Zoom call? Cool. I want to chat about a couple things that are on my mind. I'd love to chat with you face to face. That's perfect. That is that's a professional. That's a professional. And someone that operates with integrity and class. Those are things that I think about. Okay. That's my last point for you. So I'm just going to review just a couple of things here. Okay. So today we talked about a lot. We talked about interview prep, talked about how to dress for success, interview etiquette, the stages of an interview, the before, the during, the after, general interview keys in general, how to leave a job. And we're gonna end the way that we started today. Okay, we're gonna end the way that we started is with an interaction. Okay, we're gonna end with an interaction. Okay, so what I'd like for all of you to do, I'm gonna turn on some music here in a minute. I want you to write down what were your top 2 to 3 takeaways from this workshop today. Okay, as we head towards the exits, what are your top 2 to 3 takeaways from this workshop? And Anthony, if you could help me with the breakout rooms, here's what I'd like to do. I think this would be good. So you can start writing this down right now. We're going to have slightly larger breakout rooms. We're going to have like 5 different breakout rooms, and it's going to be speed sharing in there. Okay. Everyone's going to go through and you're going to share your top 2 to 3 takeaways. Because my takeaway is X, Y, and Z. Then you go around the group. Everyone's going to share their takeaways. And whoever in your group, you're all going to elect one leader. Hear me loudly. You're all going to elect one leader in your breakout room to share to the main room when we close the breakouts. Does that make sense? So there's going to be 5 breakout rooms and each breakout is going to have a captain. There's going to be a leader in each breakout room and you all elect the captain. Then once we end the breakout rooms, we're all going to be in the main room like we are right now. There's going to be 5 shares, each one of those captains. Give me a high five if that makes sense. Y'all tracking with me here? So you're all going to elect your own captain and they're all going to share to the main breakout room. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on some music. We'll go for about a minute here. We'll go here for about a minute, give you an opportunity to write down a couple of things. And Anthony, you can just give me a thumbs up whenever you're good with the breakout rooms there. All good, thank you. You're fast, I love it. I'm gonna turn on some tunes. We're gonna go here for just a quick minute. Write down 2 to 3 of your takeaways, something that you're excited about, maybe an action step that you're excited to take leaving this event today in preparation for your TLA interview with your manager. This is good stuff. You guys learning things? I love it. That's awesome. Learning all of the things is great. I love seeing all of you take a bunch of notes too. I'm watching, taking a bunch of notes today. Hey, John Roach, if you could send that to my team too, that'd be awesome. All right, everybody, that was about a minute. So we're going to open up breakout rooms, and I'm going to put these questions up on the screen too, just in case. So once again, be quick. We're going to be in breakout rooms for 10 minutes. We're going to be in breakout rooms for 10 minutes. Okay, breakout rooms for 10 minutes. Go through and share. You're going to identify your captain. And if you finish early, go through and talk about what else you learned, what you're excited about. Okay, so go for 10 minutes. We're going to come back. Breakout room is going to be open in 3, 2, 1. Enjoy. Enjoy breakouts. Everyone's getting whisked away. All right, cool. Pause the recording here. Recording is live again. Everybody say hello to the recording. We're back in action. All right. If you were a captain, raise your hand. Raise your Zoom hand. You can raise your Zoom hand though, so it can all get put up. We got Ayla, we got JJ. If my math serves me correctly, now we're missing 2 more people. We got EJ. I love this South Coast representation here. We got 2 more. Who are the other captains? You know who you are. Who are the other captains? We'll start with JJ. Then we'll go Ayla, and then we'll go EJ.
Well, am I sharing like 1 or 2 takeaways?
Yeah, it's like what were your takeaways? Yeah, what were your takeaways from and maybe something that somebody else got too. So that's great.
Yeah, so I was in a really great group with Jay, Kira, Angeli, Dakota, Dianara, Matt, and Priya and Mauricio. Got to meet a lot of them. Obviously, Mauricio's from the same office, but one of the, I guess, main key things that kept popping up around everyone's answers was understanding how to actually create a resume, understanding how to, phrase it so you pop and you sound better than just the average person. A lot of us don't get any resume building in high school. So it's really great to just understand and see how to do that and stand out in a resume. I think that's going to be really important because a lot of people aren't scanning through the entire resume, right? They're just looking at key things, cover letter, things like that. And the cover letter brings me to that. I've never written a cover letter myself, so it's good to see how that is done in the proper way to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great. And one thing that JJ just did too, by the way, we're going to go over a minute or 2, everybody, so bear with us. And I appreciate that in advance. But what JJ did was really good was, hey, I was in a group with this person, this person, this person, and this person. So acknowledging everybody in the group is really nice whenever you do that as well. So active listening, all those things matter. Ayla, go for it.
Hello, I'm Ayla. Sorry, Jeremy. You said my name wrong. That's okay. It happens. I was in the group with Grace, Kendall, Andrew, Gary, and some things that I really got were from Grace, Kendall, and Lisa. Great. Well, Kendall talked about being in that headspace, dressed for success. And when you do that, you have like that confidence, you're ready to go in, and you have that mindset of already like, I got this kind of thing. And Grace sort of added on to that about being in your flow, being in your headspace. And then I talked about with Lisa agreed with it, I talked about instead of saying weakness, that area of opportunities, changing that negative into a positive is amazing because we already live in this negative world. And so why not like pick out that positive pieces that you gain from it? Because life is about growing. And so that's why I really like the idea of changing negative to positive. And for that reason of leaving, like you might have like a negative job or something, but what were the positives that you gained from that probably negative job? Or what did you learn from yourself and like the strengths you had from that negative job that you probably had? So that's what I got from our little group that we had.
Yeah, that's a really good share. One thing that comes to mind when you mention that is I like Tony Robbins a lot. And one thing that Tony Robbins speaks on is what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. Right. So you can always choose the side of the coin, whichever one you choose, but you just got to be intentional and actually go find that. Right. That's awesome. Thank you. EJ, we'll go to you, then Brad, then Ryan will take us home.
All right. So I was in a group with Laurel, Violet, Jessica, Titus, Luis, Michelle, Jason, and Brad. But anyways, like the 3 topics that we kind of covered mainly was just having like a really good background, showing that, everything looks professional, the way that it's everything set up, positive framing. So yeah, some skills you might not be the best at, but it's how you want to develop it, how you want to grow. And I was just letting them know like, hey, if you're talking to your division manager, let them know like you do want to grow. And then first and last impressions, especially the last impressions, basically don't have like a negative last impression with your manager. I know from experience, some reps had very negative impressions on me. Some had a lot of positives. Had a rep, one of their employers called me as a reference, and I was letting them know like, hey, although some things were negative, I'm going to make sure that I bring you up. So those were the 3 takeaways.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? And just being candid about it too, just being honest with that person that reaches out about the reference. So that's awesome. Mr. Brad.
Yeah, for sure. So I got the pleasure of being in a great group with two Savannahs. So Savannah, Mitchell, Zeno, Preston, Bella, Abby, and a lot of things we talked about were first and last impressions, like you mentioned, Jeremy. And that's something that we never really like thought about per se. Like if you're counting on this person, or if you're gonna, leave this person on your resume, like as a reference, like how was your last impression with this person? And how it all starts is your first impression, like whether you know it or not. People, take notice. People judge the way you look, the way you walk, the way you present yourself, portray yourself. So those sort of things. And like we mentioned today, like a nice firm handshake, like a couple nice powerful pumps, just firm and brief, as we mentioned there. So people take notice of a first impression. And we also talked about those in-person things, carrying that over to Zoom. So whether it's something you see in their background, like, hey, how can you pick something out? Like I mentioned with Savannah, having a chameleon in her background, like that's pretty cool. And being in person with someone, and whether it's in their office, their home, whatever it may be, like getting like peep that fly hat. So having like a 360 view and seeing, oh, you have a very nice home, or you have, oh, look at that SC2 trophy you won there. How did you push? Like Ava mentioned there. So yeah, taking the things that we have in person, carrying that over to Zoom, I think that's pretty powerful. And love that we're doing a lot of things in person as well. So yeah, shout out to my group.
Yeah, it's awesome. Shout out. I love that, right? Where it's like in the future, there's going to be a lot more Zoom stuff in the future, just the way that the world's going. But there's always a nice blend of the two, right? So learning how to do both is really powerful. Ryan, take us home.
Yeah, so I was in a group with Carolina, Tommy, Olivia, Sneha, and Jacob, and we talked about number one was leaving a good lasting impression. One for yourself, so if you like need anything from them in the future, a reference, a helping hand, whatever, you can have that, but also out of respect for your coach, your mentor, your manager, because they've put a lot of time into you. So you need to really respect that, effort on their part by giving them the common courtesy of, an in-person or on Zoom, conversation that you're going to be leaving. Yeah. And then second thing was just putting a positive spin on your weaknesses. Like you mentioned, the area of opportunity rather than a weakness. And also what you mentioned about, thinking, don't really touch too much on things that you don't want to do, even if it's, something you're good at, but, really just touching on it a little bit, but really, putting the emphasis on what you do want to do in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really good takeaways. The positive spin, the positive framing for sure. It just says a lot about someone's mindset and their attitude for sure. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. All right, so I have some final words, and then we'll wrap up here. I'm pumped for this. Yeah, everybody get some good stuff today. Y'all learn some things. Yeah, cool. When we talk about the Leadership Academy, some people on here might view themselves as a leader, and some people on here might not view themselves as a leader. So we talk about the Leadership Academy. Where I really want you to focus on is leading yourself, right? You have to take care of yourself first and leading yourself. And how do you do that? And how do you really earn a great shot at the Leadership Academy? It's 3 letters, CPO. CPO. CPO speaks volumes for sure. And of course, all these skills that we're teaching you, how to phrase things, positive framing, how to answer the right questions, leaving lasting impressions. It's also really great to back that up with some CPO, right? Would y'all agree? So leaving this event that we just finished SC2, and as we're transitioning into the fall, with my experience being in the business for as long as I have been, the number one way to separate yourself from your peers is CPO consistently shipping CPO, especially as we go into a transition. For a lot of you that are students going to start your fall, a lot of you probably already started school, but going into the fall with a lot of momentum really plays a big role in your Leadership Academy interview. And also the sales job, being in the field, is the tool sharpener. That's where you work on these skills, the positive framing, the great questions, the leaving lasting impressions. Being a representative is a tool sharpener. Vector, it's a great playground to learn all of these skills and really master your craft. Does that make sense? Mastering your craft. You got to go put it into action, because it doesn't matter what you learn if you don't put it in your schedule. Now, you all got your notes now. One thing that Oster Oberbillig talks about that I really love is, notebooks are where your dreams and thoughts go to die, but go put them in your schedule, right? Like where are you gonna work on your script? When are you going to prep for your TLA interview? When are you going to put your resume together, your cover letter? When are you going to have these flashcards? Look up your manager's mission statement, their LinkedIn, all those things. So when are you going to do those things? And don't just keep it in your notebook and close your notebook, put it off to the side. Don't let it collect dust. Put it in your schedule and actually put it into action. Cool. All right, everybody. Everyone say peace out to the recording here, okay? Now, one thing I'd like for all of you to do leaving this event is I want you to message your division manager. And if you don't have a connection with your division manager yet, ask your manager to get you connected with your division manager. Your DM, your manager gets you connected with the DVM, and let them know what you're excited about for the Leadership Academy. About, hey, I'm excited, Mr. Keller, Mr. Britton, Mr. Donahue, to earn a spot in the Leadership Academy. The resume workshop was so helpful. I'm excited to show you what I'm made of in the Leadership Academy. Does that make sense? That'd be an impressive thing to do. So everybody, go rock the rest of your day. Choose growth. Leaders lead. I'm going to turn off this recording. Everybody go rock your days today. Let's go. See you.